In this video, I'll be exploring the Escape from Tarkov Iceberg, posted by u/l-bot. I'm sure most of you already know what the iceberg format is, but for those of you who don't, I'll give a quick briefing. Essentially, the top of the iceberg is uncommon but well-known knowledge, and as we get deeper into the iceberg, it'll become more and more obscure, even breaking into theories and speculation. If I end up getting something wrong, or couldn't find information on a certain topic in the iceberg, a comment would be much appreciated. As always, like and subscribe, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Bear versus USEC. This is the lore behind the Bear and USEC, and essentially why they are fighting each other. USEC is employed by Terror Group to provide protection for the company who participate in illegal activities and unethical research. Bear is allegedly created by the Russian government to uncover any evidence of Terror Group's illegal activities. All maps are connected. This seems to be the fact that when you look out into the distance on certain maps, you can see other maps, such as Woods to Factory, Customs to Interchange, and sometimes you can even see the city of Tarkov. Scavs are civilians. It's pretty well known that Scavs are actually just civilians and gang members trying to get by and survive in Tarkov. China ban. Tarkov isn't available in China, but a lot of Chinese players play anyway, a lot of the time with the use of cheats. A lot of them having the name Douyu, a Chinese streaming platform where cheating on Tarkov is prominent. Traders are in the city. I'm not sure what this one means, but I think it's just that all the traders are from the city of Tarkov, potentially. Terror Group experimenting on people. On the quest, Terror Group employee, given by Peacekeeper, you are tasked with retrieving a USB stick on labs that belongs to Sanitar, a SCAV boss and former Terror Group employee that can be found on shoreline at the health resort. Once the USB is retrieved and returned to Peacekeeper, you get this dialogue. We decoded the flash drive. There's a lot of important information there, but I can't tell you everything, confidentially. I can tell you about the Sanitar. He's a scientist. He studied drugs and created them, and then tested them on people. Very bold. Or as it is sometimes known, not ethical research. This essentially proves that Terror Group is testing drugs on people, or at least Sanitar. Streamers control meta. A lot of streamers show or validate new metas for EFT, such as the leg meta, or more recently, the blind fire meta made popular by Klean, as well as Pestyly's manipulation of the EFT flea market. So I would say they do have a pretty heavy influence on the meta in Tarkov. USEC killed Terror Group employees. This is backed up by Escape from Tarkov, The Raid, Episode 3, a short canon YouTube series made by Battlestate Games. In the episode, you can see multiple Terror Group employees gunned down by USEC.
Klean, tam есть файл за понедельник.
Так. Опа. Смотри.
Cover my sector. Michael, are you deaf or what? We need you here. Yeah, I got another job to do. No, you fuck. Freeze!
Raiders are PMC'S gone bad. This is hinted at via the Escape from Tarkov wiki under the Raider faction quote, shady group of armed people, according to rumors consisting of former PMC operators, local residents, and others with obvious combat experience and tactical training, unquote. It's just a rumor, but I think it's true. UN doesn't care. I couldn't find anything on this topic, but in the mission, Humanitarian Supplies, Peacekeeper says, our team always works for the good of the people, or at least we try to make it look so. Later on, he also says, this time crates contained a little help, not only for the people, but also for USEC company. This shows that the UN is sided with USEC, and clearly they want to appear that they are helping, but it just seems that they are in it for their own personal gain. Scavs use aimbot. I would consider them to have some sort of aimbot. From my experience, I would say Scavs aren't too bad, but Raiders definitely have some pretty heavy aimbot.
Граната тут! Ох, ёпт, граната!
Secret China servers. I couldn't find anything on this topic, but I don't think Battlestate has a secret set of servers for just China specifically. They do have Asian servers, so I guess you could consider China among those servers. I highly doubt it. Missing AUGMENTIN pills. I couldn't find anything on missing AUGMENTIN pills, but if you know something, please leave it in the comments below. Streamer lobbies. I don't think there's a specific lobby meant just for streamers, considering a lot of the time, they have the same problems as we do, like long queue times. Also, player scavs spawn with the streamers, so it wouldn't make much sense to have streamer exclusive servers. Russian victimization propaganda. I can see this theory definitely having some strong ground to stand on. I think there's definitely a bias towards Russia in EFT, considering it's made by Russian devs, and the fact that USEC does seem to be the bad guy since they work alongside Terror Group, but I wouldn't necessarily call it victimization. BSG uses hacks in their own game. I couldn't find any evidence to support this, but I don't see why they need to use hacks in their own game. It wouldn't really make much sense. HOTROD glitch texture. I believe this is referring to the HOTROD glitch texture, where instead of seeing the usual HOTROD texture on the can, you would see an actual Red Bull logo instead. I think what could have happened was this is just a placeholder texture that they forgot to delete, or an old texture from an earlier build of the game. EFT is in the same universe as Stalker. This is definitely an interesting theory, but unlikely. The EFT devs even mentioned they have no relation to Stalker. Although I have to admit there are a lot of similarities, mostly just because they are both post-apocalyptic Russian hardcore first-person shooters.
Эй, импортный! Fuck off!
Scav bosses are former player-controlled scavs that went MIA. A cool theory, but I really don't think this one has any supporting evidence. I can debunk this one as well, considering player scavs don't spawn immediately as a raid starts, meanwhile scav bosses do. Streamer loot. In Tarkov, there are multiple pieces of loot you can obtain that are referencing streamers. In total, there are 18 streamer items, and you need them all for the quest Collector, given by Fence. The items are Old Fire Steel, referring to the streamer Daisy RU, Antique Axe, referring to the streamer WYCC220, Battered Antique Book, referring to the streamer Dobby Killstreak, Fire Clean's Gun Lube, referring to the streamer Klean, The Golden Rooster, referring to the streamer Chicken Prism, The Silver Badge, referring to the streamer Sheriff Eli, Deadly Slob's Beard Oil, referring to the streamer Deadly Slob, Golden 1G's Phone, referring to the streamer Summit 1G, Jar of Devil Dog Gamer Mayo, referring to the streamer The Devil Dog Gamer, The Can of Sprats, referring to the streamer Elcon After, The Fake Mustache, referring to the streamer Sequisha, The Cotton Beanie, referring to the streamer Cotton, The Can of Dr. Lupo's Coffee Beans, referring to the streamer Dr. Lupo, The Pestily Plague Mask, referring to the streamer Pestily, The Raven's Figurine, referring to the streamer Mark Strom, The Shroud Half Mask, referring to the streamer Shroud, Veritas Guitar Pick, referring to the streamer Veritas, and finally, the 40-second signature blend English tea, referring to the streamer Sacril. Streamers paid by BSG directly to hype game. I can see this happening, but realistically I think it's just Twitch drops and people trying to get the maximum amount of viewers possible. Hype could also play a factor in a bunch of streamers streaming the game, especially since most streamers quit the game pretty fast. AI scavs participate in the flea market. This one's definitely outlandish, and I can't really see a purpose in scavs participating in the flea market. There's really no reason for BSG to hide something like that anyway. Meta is controlled by adaptive AI. It's possible this could happen. I think scavs could potentially have an influence on the meta, but I think streamers have a way bigger role to play in controlling the Tarkov meta.
Настоящие Армани, блядь, реальные! Всё, стволу пиздец!
The Tarkov situation is actually a TG experiment. It would seem Terror Group played a role in the downfall of Tarkov, but I think it was multiple different causes that caused the downfall of Tarkov. In the description for the Raiders it says, they are active in the lab, and are the starters of the chaos which is destroying Tarkov. It would seem the Raiders either came to labs to find something, or that's where they're from. Maybe some of Terror Group's experiments went wrong, and they lost control of the Raiders. The microwave's importance. The microwave is a meme in the Tarkov community where the streamer Pestily hit 40k viewers on his Tarkov stream. Chat asked him to show his microwave, which he did, playing one raid of interchange with his keyboard on top of the microwave. This has been an ongoing joke in the community, with NIKITA even referencing it in a developer live stream. BSG makes hacks. I couldn't find any proof on this topic, but in my opinion it wouldn't really make much sense for them to make hacks considering it would affect the game's player base numbers and would deter people from playing the game. No pre-placed dead bodies. In Tarkov there are multiple pre-placed dead bodies you can find. Most of them give you either quest items or random loot. This one is pretty easily debunked considering most of the bodies you find are always in the same location every time, and some of them give you quest items which are pretty essential for progress in the game. BSG knows the game is broken and intends to keep it that way. It would seem that BSG really doesn't like to fix some serious problems in the game, like long queue times, which have been a problem for a while, but it's unlikely they keep it this way on purpose because it does scare away a lot of players from the game. UN secretly funding USEC. Again, in the mission Humanitarian Supplies, Peacekeeper says, this time crates contained a little help, not only for people, but also for USEC. So clearly they were funding USEC in some capacity. TG used Resort to experiment on people. This one has a lot of evidence supporting this. In the resort you can find hospital beds everywhere, so it was definitely used for something medical. But the biggest thing is, you can find the Scav boss Sanitar at the health resort, who is well known in the lore for testing things on humans. Cultists will never be implemented. This one is irrelevant considering cultists were just added into Tarkov. UN secretly funding Bear. It's clear that the UN is funding USEC, but I don't think they would be funding Bear as well. There's no evidence to back it up, and the only way I could see them funding Bear was if they had an alternative motive, or just making lots of money off the happenings in Tarkov. If that was the case, it would make a lot of sense for the UN to fund both sides. AI controls the flea market. This is definitely an interesting point, but I can't see a reason for BSG implementing something like this, considering the flea market is a place where specifically players can buy and sell objects they find in raid. BSG owned by KGB. I don't think this one is true, but maybe they are, and are spying on us via the game to gather information for a Russian invasion, or a breach of your private information. There's really no evidence to support this theory, but this is an interesting theory nonetheless. Hitboxes made to detect hackers. This would seem like a good idea on paper until innocent people start being banned for hitting lucky shots and being good at the game. I don't believe this is true. I think most hackers are banned off of the reports from other players. Nikita doesn't work for BSG. I can't really see a reason for Nikita to hide something like this. He's also listed as the lead developer for both Tarkov and his other game that's not nearly as well known, Contract Wars. China never got banned. This one simply isn't true, considering the government plays a big role in what happens with the game in China. I think it's simply Chinese players playing on a bunch of different servers.
Хлеборезку сделай попроще свою, блядь.
No RNG. I'm assuming this one is talking about loot spawns, or maybe scavs. A lot of loot have specific loot spawns, but it is RNG if they even spawn or not, so I don't think there's much proof to support this theory. Same with scavs. A lot of scavs have set spawns, but it is RNG what they spawn with and if they even spawn at all. Cultists were in the game all along. This one is spooky. And who knows, maybe they have been in the game all along. Like some scary Tarkov hero Brian, lurking and watching, waiting for their time to strike. UN funding both sides. Again, unless UN have an alternative motive, I can't really see them funding both sides, but it's almost confirmed they are funding the USEC in some capacity. Tarkov is based on real events and Nikita is trying to call attention to it. I feel like if something this huge was happening somewhere in Russia, we would hear about it. It's unlikely something like the events that take place in Tarkov could be covered up in real life. Plus, if Nikita was trying to shed light on something like this in real life, I'm sure the government would have shut down this project in its infancy to stop the word from spreading. Nikita's secret master key. I'm not sure what this one is talking about. Maybe Nikita has an unlimited use key that can open any door in the game. I'm not quite sure. TG funds placement of loot. I can't really see this happening. Each map is a war zone full of dead bodies and loot to be had. It just seems to be loot left behind from a more civilized time in Tarkov. Although maybe TG is placing loot for PMC'S, so they will keep going into raids, therefore helping TG's darker motives in Tarkov. That's for you to decide. Scav bosses are funded by the UN. There's really no evidence supporting this theory, and I can't really think of any reason for the UN to fund the Scav bosses. They just seem to be leaders or Scavs trying to survive in Tarkov. The only one I could potentially see being funded by the UN is Glukar because of his former military background.
Ну чё ты заткнулся? Подох, что ли?
Playing in past lobbies. I'm not quite sure what this one is implying, but maybe the fact that Tarkov lobbies keep repeating themselves like some kind of purgatory. Scav bosses are the deadly sins. I really like this theory, and I could see some of the bosses being those sins. I think Killa would be Wrath, considering he has no followers and will kill everything on sight. Rashala is Greed since he's the deal maker. Gluhar is Pride since he's always showing off his sexy muscles in that t-shirt, and he never wears armor or a helmet. Strootman is Sloth since he is only ever found at one location of woods and camps. And I'm not sure about Sanitar. I'll leave that one up for you guys in the comment section below. Climbable ladders. If only this were the case, I could finally get that goddamn sniper scavs loot on customs. BSG slave workers. This one's pretty ridiculous. I highly doubt there are slave workers working at BSG. UN kills all of those who escape Tarkov. Since we don't know that much about other places in the world other than Tarkov, and considering they haven't received help from any outside country, it could be a sign that UN might be covering up the incident. Maybe we'll find out with more lore as the game progresses. Labs is hell. It definitely is. No AI scav theory. This is the theory. that there are actually no in-game AI or scavs, but instead they are actual players. With the new update, it seems that scavs act more like players than ever before, so maybe it's true. Possibly the BSG slave workers slaving away. 13th map. The 13th map in Tarkov is Private Sector. The map's description is, quote, private residential sector built up with cottages of the first upper-class citizens of Tarkov. In the first weeks of emerging chaos, it served as a refugee camp, but has become a known scavenger hunt afterwards. Hopefully we see this map released with the full game, or as a DLC. Only time will tell.
Подстава, пацаны! Шухер!
Cultists worship streamers via streamer items. A lot of cultists in the game have streamer items, like the Pestily Plague Doctor's mask, so it is possible that they are worshipping streamers, maybe sacrificing loot to them in the marked rooms. Flea Market AI went rogue, and BSG is trying to reclaim it. A rogue AI is definitely a scary thought, and I really like this one, but I think it's just PMCs trying to make some bank. Dog tags are souls. It would make sense, since every PMC has one, so maybe you are a lost soul living in purgatory, collecting souls to sell to the therapist, who is the Grim Reaper. Scavs are conscious. This one's scary, especially considering the next topic on the list, which we will get to shortly. The thought of gunning down endless scavs for their loot and having them be conscious is deeply disturbing. Who knows, maybe the next scav you kill is a player who died in real life, haunting Tarkov, lurking around the corner, waiting to strike. Death sounds are authentic. This is really unsettling. A lot of death sounds in Tarkov can be pretty disturbing, and it's not impossible that the devs of Tarkov went on LiveLeak or a website similar to it and found real sounds of people dying. This also plays into the theory that scavs are conscious, which would make this way more disturbing. It's unlikely, but a scary thought anyway. Here are a few of the death sounds. Tarkov is purgatory for dead soldiers. This one makes a lot of sense. The fact that we keep doing raids over and over again, even when we die. Maybe escape from Tarkov is symbolic of trying to escape purgatory, and how futile it is. Maybe that's why we never see any outside help, because this is our own personal living hell.
Мне пиздец. Пришел, блять, к успеху.
Tarkov gathers information on how people in different countries would respond to a Russian invasion. This one could tie into the KGB theory from earlier in the iceberg. Maybe this is a test to see how efficient we would be in defending from a Russian invasion, to learn our tactics. Maybe that's why Tarkov is so realistic. It's almost like a training software. Empty factory theory. Have you ever been wandering through factory and haven't been able to find a single soul, as if it was empty from the start? Maybe it's a glitch in the game, or something more sinister. It's a creepy thought, but almost any game with an empty server can feel creepy. A place that was once popular with players fighting for loot is now an empty ghost town. Predetermined raids. Every raid you enter could be fate, a higher force controlling your raids. Everything that happens in the game is already determined, where people will die and where loot will spawn. You have no control, just a pawn in a bigger game. You can actually escape Tarkov, maybe in future updates, but unfortunately the only way to leave Tarkov is to turn off your PC and walk away. EFT is training for combat AI. A highly advanced super Russian combat AI in training in a game that's highly realistic and a military shooter? That couldn't be possible, or could it? Maybe we'll be invaded by a bunch of Russian robots with the appearances of scavs looking to extract our lives away from our bodies. We're just playing their game, feeding them information. Just a thought. The game is actually finished. They just bait purchase waves with updates. This one would be dirty, but it's smart. There's a possibility this is true. Maybe the game's been done since 2015 and they keep releasing it in parts for more money. I don't think this is the case from lack of proof, but it's an interesting theory anyway. I appreciate everyone who made it to the end of the video. A sub would be extremely appreciated, and if I got something wrong or someone had theories of their own or critiques of the video, just leave a comment and maybe we can have some civil conversations in the comment section below.